I actually have a question for Mark and everybody at AVS, because I know, speaking of boredom and the phrase I think a lot of us have heard throughout our lives as adults working with children or having children is, I'm bored. I'm bored. So, Kristen and I, our response is, gosh, that must be really frustrating for you. And that's it. So I was wondering if Alpine Valley has something similar along those lines.
I usually just say, hi, board, I'm Mark, but.
Hi, I'm Erica. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. Right. That's actually funny because I actually just did an interview for a local paper about this subject because they were talking about the summertime boredom. I'm like, what do you do about summertime boredom? That whole thing that I like on the inside when someone tells me that they're bored, and my son tells me, I have a 5-year-old son who's a student at AVS too, and is just extrovert incarnate. I mean, he living alone or being away from his friends right now is absolutely just the worst thing that's ever happened to him. Even though he's mostly fine, but so he says he's bored constantly. Boredom is just the state of his life right now because there is no one besides boring me and the rest of our family to play with. So when someone says they're bored, when he says it or a student says it, I think on the inside, I think good. That's a really good thing. It's a really important thing to reckon with as early as possible, in my opinion. That is a real state of being for everybody, and adults deal with that all the time. Feeling restless, feeling unfocused, feeling like you don't know what you want to do is a huge deal. And it's something that a lot of us, our lives were so structured as children that we didn't even have a chance to grapple with that. We didn't even have a minute. If we were bored for 1 second, someone was going to sign us up for a piano lesson if we didn't want to know, that was never part of childhood, and it's becoming increasingly less a part of childhood. And so it's something a lot of people don't even get to face until they're adults. And then they just don't know what the heck to even do. So I'm very grateful that I had a lot of time to be bored, and I'm very grateful that my son has a lot of time to be bored. And that's fine. And it's not the end of the world. And it's a great opportunity to figure out what is calling to you to do. What do you want to do? What sounds good to you? What's someone else doing? A lot of my invitation after I make my dad joke, after, when kids complain about being bored at school is that, do you want to help me with what I'm doing? And mostly they're like, do I want to do the bills? No, I don't actually. Well, then you're not that bored, go find something else that you want to do. If you're truly that bored, you can come make cookies with me, which is what I'm doing, or whatever. And that can often be an invitation to really explore new things too. So, I don't ever want to say to somebody who's feeling that sense of discomfort, good, I hope you suffer terribly, but just the experience of being bored and resolving that for yourself and knowing that it's not terminal is huge, and is a really good thing to have happen. And it's a real gift of schools like ours where there isn't so much structure that it puts off all of those really difficult lessons until you're much older and much less well equipped to deal with it.
Can I add on to that? I think it goes so much more. It goes so much deeper than that, in the sense that it's very powerful for a kid to go, okay, something externally is happening to cause me to feel this way. I am feeling bored. And now it's my responsibility to figure out how to rectify that. Do I need to go explore this interest and maybe develop a passion for playing the guitar or pottery or whatever to fill my boredom? And that is a really good tool that I also use in adulthood for okay, something externally is happening. It's causing me to be really stressed. Why am I stressed? And how can I fix that? Why am I anxious? How can I fix that? Why am I sad? And I think, practicing those kind of skills in holding yourself responsible to that from when you're 5 to 18 it's really empowering as an adult now.
There's lots of cool research on the locus of control, right? Whether you see your locus of control for your life internally, the internal locus of control, or external, right? Things happen to me, I am the victim of life, you know, or also just things have to happen to me. You know, I'm waiting for my prince to come, or whatever it is, right? Like I'm waiting for external forces to shape and control my life. Versus, I think what you were saying really is about building that internal locus of control. I am the author of my destiny every day. And again, that just needs practice. And there's really pretty robust correlations of happiness and contentment with feeling an internal sense of control.
So I'll share something, and I too love this conversation, and I think you know, I'll touch a little bit on my experience around electronics and also boredom in what I've witnessed in my son who attends the school, and he's almost 8. So I really toyed with the whole electronics conversation for the past 5 years, and I would say over the past year and a half, I feel very grounded in the relationship that I personally have with electronics. And for that reason, my son now has an unlimited use of electronics through the day. You know, he has his own phone, he has his own laptop, he has his own, we've even allowed him to create certain social media accounts. But I say that because, or I share that because, you know, I've seen in him like little things, like at micro level adjustments where I've seen where he'll create out of boredom with using electronics. You know, just like last week, he was watching a show. I think it was either Peppa Pig or one of those shows where all of a sudden he was in a room on screen for at least about an hour and 15 minutes. And he comes running out and he says, I need your help. I need your help. I need you to come to the garage and bring this ladder. And he takes it out in, you know, into our pool area, and he sets up the ladder like a diving board, and then he goes back in, changes, comes back out and says, this is my diving board, I'm going to dive from here, you know. And he jumps. I mean, to him it was a dive. But I think and I'll share another example. So he's not here today. Him and my husband are in Orlando buying an ATV. And so he says to me about 2 weeks ago, he says he sees somebody riding an ATV and he starts exploring, what is this machine do? I want to explore it. And he asks a lot of questions. And then, and I had no insight. I had no idea that we would be buying an ATV today, but he goes on YouTube, he watches a bunch of videos on how they work, what the machine is, how you drive it, the safety of it, the whole thing. And then he says to me, I really want this. And I say, you know, how much is it? And he even put it in Amazon, and or Amazon or Google, wherever it was. And he says it's $650, you know? And I mean, in his world, he doesn't really understand the concept of what $650 is. But the point being that, you know, he did all this research with this unlimited availability of an electronics that provided him the opportunity to research this much. And, you know, and I shared with him, I said, well, not right now. You know, I don't feel comfortable buying this right now. And I explained to him, you know, our business is a little slow and maybe we can reconsider in, you know, a couple of months. And he was okay with it. And he went back, and then 2 days later, he did more research, you know, just out of the pure, like, curiosity of like, I really want this thing. Like, what else can I do? And he came back and he said, oh, but mom, if I don't get the reverse feature, then we can get it for $550, you know, and I don't have to have the reverse feature on it. And he, like, literally, I was convinced, only purely from the perspective of his drive to do whatever it takes to get this thing that he really wants. you know? And so, yeah, sure enough, they're in Orlando today. So I really did, like, my whole relationship with electronics through this education model, and also, like, you know, conscious parenting work I've done, has completely shifted. And I don't, like, I don't feel like we should have any, of course, I mean, every child is different, and the relationship that we have with our children is different, and that's more important in deciding what's appropriate. But once we shift that relationship that we have with, like, for example, boredom, or we have with, for example, electronics, I feel like so many of these questions just organically get answered.
Thank you. He is very tenacious. I like that about him.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because he was never that child, right?
Oh, really?
He was, I mean, yeah, he was never that child. He was definitely more, I would say, shy, very reserved, very, I mean, and he still is to some degree, you know, but I think he's built this confidence where he can be that part of him still, and accept that part of him that will always watch before he acts. But at the same time, the minute he understands that this is safe enough to do, he's like steps over to the other side and tries, you know,
That's
while
really
knowing
cool.
that that's who he is. Yeah.